Yo, what do you? This is your boy Sherry Speeds, and today I want to talk to you guys about Teen Wolf Season 6, Episode 6, and it's titled Ghosted. And following last couple weeks ago, the fifth episode, Radio Silence, we finally, in a quick recap, we saw Styles and Peter beginning to figure out how to get out of the Wild Hunt. For those that didn't see it, the Wild Hunt was like a 1940s bus station, old bus station, really dull and gray, rarely abandoned, very spooky looking, you know. And it turns out, of course, Peter, knew so much about it. So, they figure out, there's been a kid there. He's had a friend that was once there with him, who bit the dust. And he says, you know what, and he gives it a shot. So, in order to escape, the kid tries to jump on back on the Ghost Riders' backs, and he gets vaporized, going through the field. And so Peter decides to make that leap because, of course, he's supernatural and Styles is mortal. And if Styles tries to do that very thing, he'll get vaporized as well. So Peter decides to take the lunge. He goes to the force field, but he's severely and badly burned. Man, isn't that ironic? And I said because if you've been a follower of Teen Wolf, you'll know that season one, Peter was badly and severely burned. In the origins, when his sister Talia and the rest of his family were killed by the Argents. And so I really look forward to how this tonight's episode is going to be. It airs in less than 30 minutes, so I look forward to it as well. Then we finally got to hear from Styles. Finally, Peter and Styles found an abandoned radio station, and Styles got to work. And he contacted Scott and Lydia through his old Jeep. Now, if you also remember, they found his old Jeep in the school parking lot, getting ready to get repoed, and they had to pay to get so then his stuff didn't get repoed, and that was actually pretty cool. I liked that. And then I'm really trying to figure out what's Mr. Douglas's big deal. He's a new science teacher, I believe, at Beacon Hills. And right off the bat, I believe Corey, Liam, and Mason and Hayden know something's off about him. If you recall, they're doing like this little copper wire and magnet exercise. Um, he instantly starts to hyperventilate very severely, and he begins to have flashbacks. And you see him like in this little test tube lab. And you see him come out of this tube, and kind of similar to if you're a fan of Hitman, you see in contracts, he's at this lab, you'll see for Agent 47 in like this big old tank, and and basically in a comatose state. And so, you really see, I start to see those flashbacks, and you see him get out, and his skin begins to peel off, kind of like similar to a snake. And he grabs, and while he goes into the closet, he starts breathing on helium, and then on the other end, you also see Argent and Melissa going out, investigating all these mysterious deaths, and each one of them having similar deaths, severe blunt trauma to the back of the skull, and right where the pineal gland is stationed. If those don't know, as Argent said, the pineal gland is significant to the eyes of the soul of a human being, and they're all gone. And what I've noticed is that towards the end of the episode, you see Douglas swallowing the pineal gland, and I think he has something to do with it. I think he's his own little makeshift Omega Alpha, if you will, because I haven't seen any of his remnant uh, part of his pack or anything like that. So I'm really look forward to tonight's episode, really getting some answers on that as well. And then from the previews of a couple weeks ago of Ghosted tonight, you see Lydia and Scott in an abandoned city. Trying to remember. Now that they remembered, Styles are trying to get him out, trying to free him. I actually look forward to seeing Hayden, Mason, and Liam actually taking the fight to the Wild Hunt. So I look forward to that as well. And I'll get back to you guys as soon as possible with my full in-depth review on tonight's episode after it airs. One love. What do you do? This is your boy Sherry Speaks, and I want to talk to you guys about Teen Wolf Season 6, Episode 6, Ghosted. And man, to beat a lot of that shit tonight. I only said it because, in the first half of my video, you heard me, have some questions as to what is Mr. Douglas's main intentions? Where did he come from? What is he trying to do? But I really didn't expect this shit. This is what I mean. At the beginning of the episode, you see Malia, what looks to be Beacon Hill's locker room, boys' locker room, washing her hands. And she looks up at the mirror and she sees this riveled old woman. And she puts her hand through the mirror and she phases right through it. Similar to the Wild Hunt. and and she goes into the Canaan, you know, the same city that Styles told her and Scott and Malia to go to, because since they're the only three that remember him, and Peter, and so and Malia, I'm sorry, and Liam, and Hayden, and Mason. So she goes through there. She walks around. She sees this Canaan Day. Which happens to be a block party. It was the 35th anniversary of it. It was 1985, April 8th, 1985. People were having a good time. You hear Duran Duran in the background. Hungry Like the Wolf, one of the greatest songs I've ever heard, to be honest. And, she's just, surveying the area. Nothing to it. So then, she notices the wild hunt comes through. The sky immediately gets dark and gloomy. All of a sudden, caps start busting, wild hunt, starts gathering up people like fucking like fucking potatoes in a burlap sack. And, and Lorraine, who happens to be the woman, who we find out to happen to be Lorraine. Now, why does that name ring a bell? Because that's Lydia's grandmother. Now, back in season 4, I believe, her name was mentioned during the Benefactor arc. What was the Benefactor? This was a Deadpool with all the main characters' names on it, and even some more. And her name was mentioned because she was a banshee. She was the first I believe one of the first few banshees of the Martin family. On record, you can hear her speaking to what sounds to be like Eichenhouse, because people thought she was crazy. And you can tell that Lydia's mom really didn't like to speak about it because she presumed that she was dead. But it turns out, as we find out tonight, that she was just trapped in the wild hunt because she lost her son, her 8-year-old son Caleb, that night in the wild hunt. And her, Scott, and Malia, talked to her. They walked in the creepy house because they started experiencing hallucinations. For example, Scott, seeing his mother with her pineal gland ripped out. It's like the other various murders that we were showcased last week's episode. Because that's what Melissa and Arjun was trying to figure out. And, it turns out Mr. Douglas is doing that to strengthen himself. I believe what looks to be now, based on evidence, I can finally conclude that maybe he's trying to do that so then he can awaken his full power, so then he can face and kill the ghostriders. That's just my theory. And moving along, they have a nice talk. She's all alone. She doesn't know that she's been trapped there. I don't think at first she knows that she's been trapped there. With her son, Caleb. And so her and Lydia face off in a screaming match. A banshee scream off. And with that being said, Lydia goes back into Lorraine's mind and goes through that exact night. And after the Ghost Riders round up, or they become to round up, they start to circle her. And Lorraine says, "You think I was working with him so I can get my son back?" But no, that wasn't the case. I guess you could say that was the case because only he was there, but Lydia told her, Lorraine, he's not real. You can come with us. But she said, you know what? No, this is where Caleb is. I missed Caleb. So of course, we all deal with death, and we all cope with death differently. Some people, like to keep that memory of that beloved person close to them. So I guess Lydia let her stay in the wild hunt after Scott and Malia almost choked to death, drowning, because when they went to go see the little boy, because the little boy asked him to come with him, they go down to like their basement, and on the TV it's on some ring type shit. It's completely white noised, with paint, with pictures on the wall. Typical of a 6 to 8-year-old. And with that being said, he's watching a video, and Malia notices the date on it. It's April 12th, 1985. And she tells Scott, "Hey, Scott, look at the TV. Again, the date, April 12th, 1985. That's when he died. That's when he drowned." And when, I believe one of them asks him, how old are you? Like, when did you die? How did you die? He stands up, and he's drenched in water. And that gives a confirmation as to, okay, yeah, he died. Remember, he drowned. So, that makes a lot of sense. What I also didn't know was that Lorraine controlled that area, but it's only because she's the sole survivor of it. And that's when I also learned that banshees are the only one that are alive and unharmed after the battle is over. As a matter of fact, it's been said that they're unstoppable, which Lorraine mentioned Lydia, but she said that she doesn't want to be like her, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, she has a friend, she loves him. Also, Hayden and Liam make some progress on their end as well as Melissa and Argent. Argent, of course, was attacked by the whip, and he asked Melissa to get these 9 supernatural herbs to get rid of the toxin. It's similar to the new Kitsune Ninja toxin, except it's green, like the Wildhood Fog. So she finds the natural herbs, and she heals them, then Liam and Hayden find Mr. Douglas down in the basement, conducting something something, I guess, for the Ghost Riders so he can take them on himself. And so they team up, because Hayden believes that he's out for the good cause, trying to help them, and then they go down to Argent's bunker because that's where they plan to store a Ghost Rider after they capture one. And then, in walks Kira's mother. She said, since Kira's entrusted me with her sword, I'm gonna help you guys, but that does not mean I agree with what you're gonna do, because whatever happens after this is completely on you. You're responsible for it. So when Liam cracks the sword in the ground and creates that lightning strike that Kira did to drown Theo to his death, I'm using the word drown metaphorically. He walks up with full power. He basically lost most of his power that job that he took from his teammates. He backstabbed. But I can tell just right off the bat that him and Douglas know each other, and that's why Douglas, when speaking of a matter of putting him back in the ground, he says, you know what, yeah, I agree with Hayden, or he used her last name, put him back in the ground, but he didn't. So now they meet up at the house. Scott wants to kill him because the shit that he put her through, and same thing with Malia. He even says coyly and sarcastically, hey, Malia, you're not still mad about the gunshot thing, are you? So I look forward to next week's episode to see what happens. This is your boy Jay Speaks. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, all that adjustment. I love y'all.